and gentlemen, the Superintendent of Phoenix Union, Dr. Chad Gestson.
Good morning, Phoenix Union, y buenos días y bienvenidos a nuestros empleados. Welcome once again to our 2021 opening of schools convocation. Our theme this year is love and learning, and we'll spend plenty of time this morning and next week and throughout the course of this year talking about that very theme. But today I want to start with a thank you, a very sincere thank you. If you are new to Phoenix Union this year, I want to thank you for choosing us, for choosing our kids, our families, our communities, and for choosing public education if this is your first year serving in this field. It's a rewarding field, it's a challenging field, it's a calling and a vocation for many. And if you're returning to Phoenix Union, I want to thank you as well. Some of you are coming back to us for your second year, your 10th year, your 20th year. Some of you are in year 40 and almost year 50. Thank you for your continued and sustained dedication to our mission, our values, our kids, and our community. And specifically, I want to thank you for all that you did to help us navigate the COVID pandemic last year. And although we know COVID is not fully past us yet, last year was unquestionably and undoubtedly the most challenging year that public education and public educators have ever faced. And we believe, as I'll talk about in a few minutes, that we navigated COVID as well, if not better, than any system in our nation. And although pre-pandemic, we have certainly received a series of hate mail during the pandemic, and post will continue. But last year, we received more thank you cards and letters and emails than ever before. And so I wanted to start this morning with a moment of mutual gratitude for all that you have done and all that you will continue to do. When we launched the 2020 school year, I shared this slide. And as we looked to the future in Phoenix Union and across our country, we knew we would have a challenging year. We knew that we would be changed and shaken. We told ourselves it would be a disruptive year. But I'm not quite sure any of us could have forecasted the year that we were about to experience. We had to watch our planet go through a global healthcare pandemic. We saw racial and social unrest in our nation, cries once again for full equality and equity and justice in our streets and in our states and in our schools and in our nation's capitals. We had a highly divisive election, insurrection at the Capitol, changes to our planet, natural disasters, human-caused disasters. It was a year of trauma and struggle and strife. And unfortunately, all that we experienced didn't just happen on a national or an international level. That trauma hit home. We lost icons, we lost teachers, we lost parents, we lost students. In just a 2-month period of time, we lost 8 of our beautiful young men and young women. We lost out on sports seasons, we lost out on arts opportunities, people lost hope, lost dreams. It was an extremely challenging year. We knew it would be disruptive. We even said that it would be a year that eliminates industries and fields and old ways of doing things. And yet we said at the same time that COVID would be an accelerator. It would accelerate the inevitable, it would accelerate practices, it would accelerate society. And we also said that COVID would force individuals and institutions and whole industries to innovate. And we were certainly right with acceleration. There are fields that will never be the same. Our society will never be the same. The way that we think about meetings and human connection will never be the same. The way that we view technology, telemedicine, the way in which we consume food, the way in which we consume goods online, and in the field of education, the way that we think about digital content digital learning, online learning, distance learning, education will never be the same. And at the same time last year, when we launched the year, I told a story. I told the story about cattle and bison that roam the same fields. And when the storm comes, cattle, out of fear, run the opposite direction. They run away from the storm, but inevitably, the storm catches up to them. And when it does, they are tired, and they are weak, and they are weary. And the storm takes longer to pass, and when it finally passes, cattle end up farther from where they want to be and need to be. And yet bison are completely the opposite. They are storm chasers. When the storm comes, they run to the storm. And they face the storm with strength and with courage. They get through the storm even faster, and they emerge even stronger and farther along in their journey. And last year, as the storm of COVID came toward Phoenix Union, as we experienced racial and social unrest, we promised that we would run to the storm. As I said a few minutes ago, we believe that Phoenix Union navigated the COVID-19 pandemic arguably better than any system in our nation. When we were forced to close schools last spring, we immediately eliminated the digital divide in the city of Phoenix by distributing hotspots and laptops to 30,000 beautiful young men and young women. We launched an initiative called Every Student, Every Day, where we made sure that our kids were loved and connected even while they were at home. We also were very clear in our commitments to our community. We said that we would always prioritize the health, safety, and wellness of our staff, our students, and our community, and at the same time that we would never abandon our students and our families. We would continue to serve our community and meet their needs. We also were very clear that we would be data-driven, that we would listen to what the science industry told us to do. We were clear and transparent about our benchmarks and our metrics about when and how we would come back to school. We were a system that decided that it was not healthy professionally, educationally, to have staff and students come back for 2 weeks and go home in quarantine. We stayed strong with our commitment. When FFCRA ran out at the federal level, we extended it through the end of the year to ensure that if you got sick, you could focus on your wellness and not your leave bank. We also navigated and stood in the face of an executive order that said all must come back to school, even if you are not ready or prepared, even if your zip codes told you it was not safe to do so. And we stuck to our commitment. We launched our safety week for our staff, our welcome back week for our grade levels, our launch week for our students, so that we could guarantee a safe return to school. And finally, when vaccines finally became accessible, although they were certainly a scarce resource, we became a leader in vaccine dispensing. In fact, I got off the phone with a state medical director just last week who had just finished a phone call with the national CDC, who said that they believe that Phoenix Union is one of the, if not the, leaders in COVID dispensing in our nation. And they said that they believe that Phoenix Union has given out more vaccinations this summer than any institution in America. And also last spring, when it was time for us to come back, I delivered a message. And it's a message that I think is just as relevant today as you sit in your auditoriums and in your libraries and in your cafeterias this morning. And it was a message of 4 G's. First is a reminder that people are grieving. There's grief in our community, there's grief on our campuses. The people next to you, people behind you, beside you, maybe even you are grieving. Loss of loved ones, loss of opportunity, we must always remember the grief of others. And at the same time, we must come back with a sense of gratitude. That, as I said, we work in a district that puts people first and will always be driven by our set of core values. We must also come back with a sense of grace. We must come back and be loving and kind and peaceful and good to each other. We must always live by the golden rule and treat others the way that we want to be treated, especially during these times. And finally, I said we must come back with a sense of greatness. You need to be great for yourself, great for others, great for your community and for your campus. But we also must come back to be great for our kids. Our kids deserve our greatness. They need our greatness. Our kids, every single one of them, has limitless potential to thrive and excel in whatever future they choose for themselves. As I've said before, and I'll say again, our kids are brilliant and resilient. They need us to pour into them. Every single one of our kids is like a seed. It's our job to help them grow. It's our job to provide for them the resources, the water, the light to help them grow. They need our soil to be healthy and ready. They need the soils of our classrooms, of our hallways, of our offices, of our cafeterias, of our culinary labs, and our theater stages, and our sports field. They need that soil to be rich and be healthy, because the reality is, the unfortunate reality, is that for many of our kids, the soil that exists in their homes and in their streets and in their communities is not ripe for growth. Although we do know that our kids are brilliant and resilient, they can be the rose that grows in the cracks of the concrete. They can blossom in the desert. But where they thrive best is in environments that focus on love and learning. And the reality is, Phoenix Union has been pursuing greatness for many years. We've been a statewide leader for generations. 2 years ago, we told the story of our 125-year history. And it's both a beautiful and a broken history. But what we did learn is that Phoenix Union has been a statewide leader for over a decade. But over the last couple of years, Phoenix Union has also become a national leader, a national model for high schools. Our schools win national awards. Our people sit on national boards and councils. Our employees are asked to speak at national conferences. And we lead nationwide and recognized initiatives, many of which are the first of their kind in the nation. And listen, we know and I know that day to day, many of you work in the trenches. It's tough to come out and peek out and see that you are a part of a system that is doing amazing work if you're a classified education support professional, an administrator, maybe a certified personnel that provides wraparound services. You work at the district or at DSF. Maybe you're a teacher that teaches in the trenches every day. It's tough to see because this is tough work. This is hard work. Education is tough work. Urban education is even tougher. Teenage years are tough. And I got news for you, as smiley as our adults can look, adults can be tough too. And there are 4,000 of you. We know this is challenging work. And I think one of the greatest quotes that I have heard recently, and let's pause for a moment and congratulate the Phoenix Suns on the year that they had to make it to Game 6 of the finals. I know we didn't get to where we wanted to be, but to get there meant that that team had a vision and had a plan for success. And our beloved coach, Monty Williams, said many times over and over again that what you want is on the other side of hard. And they pursued that greatness all year. They had a plan. They didn't just magically get to the finals. Phoenix U didn't just magically become a national example or a role model. Success is not accidental. It's purposeful. It's intentional. It's a journey. It does not happen overnight. Phoenix Union's success is a part of a plan. It's a part of a roadmap. And I know some of you ask yourselves, you guys have a plan up there? Yes, we have a plan. And the reality is that our plan is grounded in decades of sound research. And in fact, today we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the intersection of Phoenix Union's strategic plan and what the research tells us drives high levels of academic achievement in large urban systems. In fact, last week, many of you experienced this, the teaching and learning framework. Throughout the course of this year and in years to come, all 4,000 of you, full-time, part-time, temp employees, will have an opportunity to engage in our teaching and learning framework, the what, the why, and the how of what we do. It's part of a plan. Next year, we will have freshman houses and freshman house coordinators on every campus for the first time. It's part of a plan. Free clubs, free sports, free activities, a focus on connectedness, advisory periods, full wraparound services, expanding the number of FTE employees that provide services to our students. It's all a part of a plan. College knowing and going initiatives, college campaigns. It's all a part of a plan. This does not happen by accident. A system like Phoenix Union does not go from $9 million in scholarships and just more than 10 years later to $150 million in free college. Even during a pandemic, we had our highest total ever. When we launch staff wellness initiatives, when we launch new schools, when we transform old, it's all a part of a plan. It's all a part of research. Every good plan begins with a clear mission statement. And there is one word in our mission that matters more than any, and that's the word every. In Phoenix Union, we're in the business of every. Not some, not most, not almost all. We're in the business of every, not just the kids that show up to school on time, perfectly ready to learn, at grade level, those that always follow directions, those that never make mistakes. Yes, we're here for them. But we're also in the business of kids who come late, who have trauma, who struggle, who are behind, who are credit deficient, who make mistakes, who need forgiveness, who need second chances and third chances. In Phoenix Union, every means every. And we ground that mission statement in a set of core beliefs and core values, because we must always be a school district that is not just mission-driven, but people-centered. 2 years ago, we also launched a new brand where we established not who we were, but who we are and where we're going. And at the time that we launched that brand, we made a promise to our community. We made a promise to our kids and to our staff and to our parents. We call it the PXU promise. And that's that we will develop and offer our community schools of opportunity. It does not matter if large or small or micro or specialty or support or an academies model, that every single one of our schools and classrooms will be of opportunity and access for all. And we also, in that promise, said that we will welcome, love, and inspire all, meaning you, our employees, but also the expectation that you pass that on to the kids that we serve. That every single individual that walks on one of our campuses will feel welcomed and loved and inspired. That we will have highly loving and inclusive environments where we will live into our anti-discrimination policy, where we will be a proudly anti-racist institution, where every single person, regardless of what we have in common or what we have that is different, that you will feel at home on a Phoenix Union campus. And that ultimately we will do all that we can for our kids to make sure that they can go out into the world and make a difference and go places and do things that matter. And so as we think about Phoenix Union's plan, our mission, our values, our promise, our brand, our roadmap to the future, it starts with our adults. Our commitment to you is that love and learning applies to all 4,000 of you as well. And it's our job to ensure that you as an employee feel loved and that we help you grow professionally no matter what title you have and no matter what role you play. And at the same time, we're in the business of kids. Nearly 30,000 beautiful young men and young women that call Phoenix Union home. We have 14-year-olds to 21-year-olds. Our kids represent nearly 100 languages, 50 tribal communities. Every single one of us needs us to focus on their love and their learning. In fact, at the end of the day and at the beginning of the day, our job is to transform the hearts and minds of our kids. Hence, love and learning, hearts and minds. And we believe, we know, that this year more than ever, love will matter. That we talked about the trauma and struggle that we've experienced across our nation. Our kids experienced that too. This past year, Cal Berkeley hosted a national conference. It was called Care Opening. I had a chance to be a speaker at that conference. And the theme, I think, is so powerful. And it reminded us that in education today, and as educators, we have more permission than ever before to open our schools with the sense of care and compassion. We remember this image and these images and the emotions that it evoked for us as adults, the fear, the anxiety, the uncertainty, the memories. We're adults. We're mature. Well, most of us. But our kids experience this trauma and drama through adolescent minds during their formative, uncertain, insecure years. And so as our kids come back, they need to come back and feel that sense of love and connection. Again, it does not matter what role you play. You might work in transportation and you're the first face that a kid sees that morning. Maybe you're security, you meet a student at the gate. You might be the first human connection of the day for that student. Whether you work in cafeterias, you help in hallways, in classrooms, in offices. Maybe you work at the district or DSF and you're on a campus. Every single one of us has an opportunity to make an impact, to change a life, and in many cases, to save a life. I also know that many of you think that large institutions like Phoenix Union, not just this year's Convocation, but in years past, shouldn't spend so much time talking about love. I challenge you to read the research. To read the research on love and relationships and connection and connectedness and trust in schools. And what you'll find, and what we believe very firmly, is that the foundation of learning is love. I'm going to say that again, at the foundation of learning in every classroom in Phoenix Union, and even in every hallway, in every auditorium, even on a football field or a softball field, the foundation is love. And we also recognize that we're an educational institution. We're not just in the business of love, we're in the business of learning. And today I want to spend a few more minutes talking about what does it take for large school districts and even schools to drive high levels of achievement. And I want to focus some of our time this morning on one of the most widely respected pieces of research. It came out of Harvard University, where at Harvard, they launched a partnership called the Public Education Leadership Project. And it's a partnership between the Harvard Business School and the Harvard Graduate School of Education. And what they did is they studied large urban systems in our nation that experienced unusual success. And they had several key findings, not enough time for us to discuss those today, but a few things really stick out in this research. First is, unsurprisingly, schools are extremely complex. We're places of people and politics and policy and history and opinion. Many factors, many complex factors impact education. The research also tells us that high levels of learning, high levels of consistent student achievement take place when school systems focus on what's known as the instructional core. It also told us that relationships and trust and culture and climate matter. That's at the school level, but that's between school and district. And what the research also tells us is that despite all that complexity, what matters is that schools focus on alignment and coherence of those systems. And what Harvard did to simplify this highly complex research is they conceptualized schools in one image. And this image represents education. And it tells us a few very important things. Number one, that there is an external environment that can have an extremely positive or negative impact on school systems. Legislation, legislators, local elected officials, governing board, state funding structures, resources, community, all can have an impact on all that happens inside of a school system. And the research also reminds us that schools and their complexity must focus on culture, structures, systems, alignment of their resources. How do we appropriately engage a wide variety of stakeholders? And that if schools are also going to drive high levels of achievement, they need a very clear strategy or plan. And inside of that plan, theories of change that drive work and effort and resources. And ultimately, the research is crystal clear that if we want to get at the achievement that all of our kids deserve, that we must also focus on the instructional core. All systems aligned to what happens in classrooms. Research has been clear for many years. The number one factor impacting student achievement is the teacher, but it's even more specific than that. The instructional core says that there are three relationships that matter. It's the relationship between the teacher, the student, and the content. And it's the relationship between the teacher and their content. How well do they know that content? Can they teach that content, scaffold that content, help kids grasp that content? At the same time, there's a relationship between the student and that content. Can they access that content? Can they understand that content? Is it relevant to them? Can they see themselves reflected in that content? And then most certainly back to this idea of love, there's a relationship between the teacher and the student. School systems must focus on what's at the center, and that's the instructional core, which is why, again, last week you experienced this teaching and learning framework. And it's why in the coming years, all of you will experience your version of our teaching and learning framework if you're a classified education support professional in one of our almost 10 job families. If you're out of the classroom, you're a counselor, a social worker, an interventionist, or maybe you're in administration, district office, campus, any role. We're all educators, all 4,000 of us, and we will engage in a framework that helps us understand what truly drives high levels of achievement. And in Phoenix Union, it goes back to that plan. It goes back to a commitment that we made many years ago, that we would have a roadmap to our success. As you've seen in the past, it's based on the A, B, C's, and D's. But a little over a year ago, we restructured our strategic plan. We made it research-based. We made it aligned. And it's based on 10 commitments that we make to you, our staff, but most importantly, you join us in this commitment to ensure that we are consistently meeting the needs and pursuing high levels of achievement for our kids. And what you will hear and see in the coming weeks and months and years about our plan, you can find at our website, pxu.org/roadmap, is a glimpse into our 10 commitments, all grounded in research. And it starts with a progressive portfolio of schools, rethinking and redesigning what new school models should look like, yet also at the same time asking ourselves the question, what does the new comprehensive campus look like in the future? We also will continue to work on how can we as a system be as effective and efficient and supportive and service-minded as possible, be stewards of our taxpayer dollars, provide you the best resources and facilities, and continue to ask ourselves questions about our processes. How do we meet your needs faster? How do we pay you faster? How do we make field trips simpler? It's our job under Commitment 9 to make sure that we are constantly pursuing better at the district level. We'll continue to find ways to engage community and family, to develop current leaders, and yet also focus on next generation leadership in Phoenix Union. As I said many times today, your health, your wellness, your success matters. We have an entire commitment just to you. We launched an employee wellness department just for you, one of the first of its kind in the nation. Because we know we need you to be healthy. Because we love you, we also need you to be healthy so you can serve our kids. We'll continue to work on ways in which we can make our communities and our schools safer, physically safer, emotionally safer, psychologically safer, even professionally safer. Commitment 4 reminds us that student wellness matters. Wraparound services, free clubs, free sports, opportunities for kids to engage before school, after school, weekends, and on breaks. And then we start to narrow ourselves into the instructional core. What are we doing to make sure that our freshmen, who come to us from 13 partner districts, over 100 public district schools, and over 75 public charter schools, what do we do to make sure that their transition into high school, even if they don't show up ready, that as they pass on to their sophomore, junior, senior year, we see thriving students at all levels. You'll see in our strategic plan and our commitments that we also must guarantee that every seat in Phoenix Union, this goes back to that idea of every seat, in every school, large or small, honors, AP, regular, that every seat gives every kid an opportunity to be successful, to be challenged, to experience high expectations matched with love and support and intervention. And ultimately, we're in the business of producing graduates that go on to be successful in college, career, and life. And we spent time getting even more specific this past year and defined what is it that a successful graduate looks like? What attributes and characteristics do they have? And so as you experience the teaching and learning framework in the coming years, you're going to hear about perseverance, problem solving, integrity, communication, self-efficacy, and adaptability. And we all play a role in those 6 characteristics. From the moment a kid comes to freshman orientation to the time they walk across the stage, every single one of us plays a role. And that role starts soon. Our kids come back in less than a week. Somewhere between 28,000 and 30,000 beautiful men and women are coming back to our campuses. And as I said, every single one of them have promise and potential. They have hopes, they have dreams, but many of them have fears. They have anxieties. As you'll hear from your campus administrators, the reminder that your seniors have only experienced 1 full year on your campuses. Your juniors have not yet completed an entire year on your campus. Your sophomores, many of them you've never met. Your freshmen, most of them you've never met. We have nearly 30,000 teenagers coming back with a sense of fear and anxiety, asking themselves, am I going to be known? Am I going to be welcomed? Am I going to be loved? Is this really a district that's going to offer me schools of opportunity and access? Am I really going to feel inspired to come to school every day? And a reminder, every single one of us plays a role in that. Every single. Again, whether you play a very important role at DSF, you work at the district office, you work in a classroom, out of a classroom, in an office, you're a sports coach, a club sponsor, every single one of us plays a role in ensuring that our kids come to school and experience a climate and a culture of love and learning. I want to thank you once again for choosing Phoenix Union. I want to thank you for engaging in Convocation this morning. I want to thank you for helping us live out our values and our mission and our promise, and helping us ensure that every single one of our kids truly feels welcomed, loved, and inspired. Thank you so much, and have a great year.